This is Pelonomi Moiloa of Lelapa AI, and we build technology for African languages. And you're tuned in to the Edge of AI, your neural network for innovative insights into AI and technology from Africa and beyond.
Hello, AI podcast passengers. Jump on in. Here's what's to come on today's journey. Find out how Lelapa AI is creating continental transformation through African tech and AI. The groundbreaking potential of the Vula Vula API and how it's bringing everyone across Africa's 2,000 languages the ability to have their own voice. How our guest finds time to be incredibly mysterious. All this and more. Take your seat.
Welcome aboard the Edge of AI podcast. Snap into your safety belt and prepare to explore the depths of the rapidly expanding AI universe. Each episode is a dispatch featuring hyper-relevant reports from the pilots, pioneers, and passengers aboard the AI rocket ship. We explore the latest use cases and developments in AI, hear from experts building tech, and learn how this disruptive force is transforming industries and society.
Welcome aboard the Edge of AI podcast. And I am Ron Levy, and I'm your captain for today. Like many of you, I've embraced exploration throughout my whole life, from starting a business before graduating high school to traversing challenging terrains. I've sought out new frontiers. I built an award-winning custom home company and that I founded. After that, I founded a public company dedicated to applying technology and training while navigating very complex regulations. So that's a variety of experiences that I hope come into play for good interviews here. And today's episode, we have Pelonomi Moiloa, and she's the CEO of Lelapa AI. Pelonomi is a biomedical and electrical engineer with nearly a decade of experience in data-driven problem solving. She combines her technical expertise with a passion for community engagement, mentorship, and empowering initiatives like coding academies for teen girls to shape a better future. And I'm going to hit on biomedical and electrical engineer real quick, just to say that is, biology and people combined with engineering. So she's very versed in creating products that take both into account, very tech oriented. So it's kind of really unique set of qualities. Lelapa AI, a socially grounded African research and product lab. They develop resource efficient humanistic AI solutions to address local challenges while advancing globally responsible AI practices and empowering African talent. So, Pelonomi, welcome to the Edge of AI.
Hello, Ron. Thank you so much.
Great. We're going to look forward to learning a little about you personally and your background and what kind of led you to be CEO of Lelapa AI, all of the above. But let's start with location a little bit. You're very African-centric in your business. Where is it that you are actually located?
I live in Johannesburg. It's where I was born and bred, Johannesburg, South Africa. It's very chilly. It's in the middle of winter. And it's also nighttime here. So, that's where I am at the moment.
All right, fantastic. Give us a little background on what led you to become CEO of Lelapa.
So while I was studying my biomedical and electrical engineering degrees, I had an interest in a scientific research institute in South Africa called the CSIR. And they had a program there that was a data science for social impact program. And through that program, and decided I wanted to pursue more of a deep learning outlook in biomedical studies. And through that journey, got involved in a community, which is now a Pan-African community called the Deep Learning Indaba. And it, at the time, was the biggest machine learning summer school in the world, actually, and was created in order to foster the talent on the African continent around AI, and specifically bringing those skills into the local context. And through that, met some really incredible people. my co-founders, I met a bunch of them in 2017, and we had no idea that 4 years later we would be working together to solve challenges and having a startup, raising money, and dedicating our lives to this thing. But that's basically how it happened. And I just so happened to have higher executive functioning capabilities than my other co-founders, that they decided that I would be the CEO.
I look at your story and what you just described is really great to hear. And one thing that comes out of it is everything blockchain, crypto, and I would suggest most things AI, right? Probably not as categorically as the other two, but most things AI. The idea is it's available to anybody anywhere. It really is. It's a new frontier, and anybody that wants to put in the time can potentially find their niche and make a career or somehow better their lives because of it. And so you developing this very quickly and talking about the most, the summer school you talked about, and then going across the continent of Africa and not just South Africa, it speaks to all that. And I know that what you're doing continues to speak about all that. And you chose to bridge biomedical engineering with data science and community work. That's kind of quite a mouthful there. Can you speak to that just a little bit of that coming together?
Yeah, I mean, I think on the outlook, they all seem like really different things. But for me, it's all the same thing, really, because it's really understanding the processes and mechanisms around coexistence. I mean, biomedical engineering has a firm grounding in understanding the systems of the body, how that body interacts with the world, and then how you can combine computers in order to functionality or to supplement for functionality that the body is not able to do on its own. And I think community work is just a part of that. So is data science, understanding the information in the environment in order for whatever it is to function better, to perform better, and able to meet its goals. And for me, that is what community work is. It's about how we can together collectively exist in a way that is better for each other and the ecosystem we exist in. So in my head, it's actually all the same thing. Yeah.
And with all that, is your focus on Africa, is it divided into, I'm going to give you two things. Tell me if it's one or the other, or just they kind of all blend together. Using these technologies and these combinations to better specifically the people of the continent of Africa, or is it mainly to use those across the world, but develop expertise within the continent of Africa so that the people of the continent become major players in these areas? Did you separate those in your mind, or is it just all one?
I'm a bit of a desperate optimist. So to me, it's both at the same time, in tandem with each other. Africa is a place that has faced significant developmental issues through all sorts of reasons, exploitation, etc. And so there really is a specific need for us to be investing time and energy into overcoming those developmental challenges so that nobody needs to suffer, because there are enough resources in the world that people don't need to suffer, and we just need to figure out how to arrive at that place where no one has to suffer. But at the same time, there is a significant opportunity for Africa to be leading innovators in understanding how to solve challenges with fewer resources in a way that the rest of the world, or at least the global north, hasn't necessarily focused on. So it's I'm going to use corporate speak, but it's like the synergistic relationship between us helping to serve ourselves, but at the same time also helping the rest of the world to progress in a way that isn't exploitative.
So the African tech landscape is quote unquote, is something that's real. And I think you just spoke to it really, really well. And one thing I'll mention it just to put it out there, and that is, you think of the continent of Africa, it's not monolithic. Every country has its own unique situation, its own needs. And I would suggest, or it's really the form of a question, do you agree that some level of tech and what you bring to it can benefit most of those countries, albeit maybe in different ways? Is that something on your radar?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, my company focuses on the language scape. For us, we believe that if technology is really going to bring a transformational revolution to people of Africa, and genuinely speaking, the rest of the global south, it cannot do that unless we solve the language challenge first. So, for a lot of people who speak what we call high resource languages, so those languages exist in text or in speech, quite heavily on the internet. Um, those types of people speak the same language as the computer they do. The computer can speak back to them in the very same language. But in the African context, we have over 2,000 languages, a billion people, and whether it's a mobile phone or a computer, we all have to learn other languages before we can gain access to the digital world and the economy associated with that. So by enabling technology to speak the language of a broader range of people, we're just opening up an opportunity and a path towards prosperity that wouldn't be as easy to grasp otherwise.
So you framed it beautifully. Now let's get into the meat of AI. Give us a little bit of like, how do you do that? What is your company doing to advance that? A little more meat in that direction, because you framed it perfectly.
So there is a significant opportunity on the African continent for AI to help solve or support developmental challenges. Large populations of Africans live far away from essential products and services due to infrastructure challenges, whether that be healthcare, whether that be access to public services or banking or things like that. And through a mobile device, there is opportunity to then bridge that gap. You can then bring services to people rather than them having to spend lots of money, which they don't have to spare, and lots of time getting to those places without a guarantee that those services would then be available when they arrive. On the African continent, of course, the infrastructure challenges around electricity and power, around internet access are very much real. But with a mobile device, we're able to scale up access. With AI specifically, you can scale up access at a lower cost to those products and services and bring them closer to the people who need them. So, yeah, that is the main opportunity that we're looking to challenge here. And our company builds language technology for African languages. We're focusing on 8 predominant languages for now, which gives us a reach of 520 million African people across 3 regions from West Africa, Central Africa, East Africa, and Southern Africa. And that means for us that we feel like we're paving a road, we're building infrastructure for people to have access to digital products and services. We're building that road for builders, for developers, for AI researchers, to continue that work so that we're able to distribute the load of solving the challenges by enabling businesses to have access to language technology. And
so am I right to
assume? Yeah.
Am I right to assume that real-time translations is what you're talking about?
So translation is one of the services, and yes, that is the automatic response that we often receive. But I mean, some of this technology is the real basics. So, for example, transcription, being able to speak a language and for that to be converted into text, which opens up a world of opportunity for things like call centers and customer service, but also for people to interact on their mobile devices. And from there, you can then translate that text to open up access to information, whether that be education or healthcare or agriculture. And then outside of that, there's also basic functionality like intent detection, which is understanding the desire of the user or consumer so that you're able to respond to it in a relevant way. And so translation is one of those services, but there are a bunch of natural language understanding capabilities that we support that otherwise there isn't support for.
So that's something that couldn't happen in the past without AI, because AI wasn't at least prominent. It's been around a while, but developing, of course. And that is you can translate, word for word. That doesn't mean you're translating meaning to meaning, right? So it's
Exactly.
kind of critically important. If you're from a village somewhere and you didn't have all these services and you can't communicate in your life, you design your life around that bubble, right? For better or
Yeah.
worse. I mean, there's some good things about
Yeah.
it too, but you're just in that bubble. What you're describing now is they can take what they know in that bubble with one of 2,000 languages that, 0.001% of the people on the earth speak, and they can use what they know and how they learned it and all the wisdom they have, and now speak outwardly to the whole world. And that just is so powerful. And I've been in communities that were never opened up before, and I've witnessed them being opened up. The glow you get from people when you open up their world to that degree, it's pretty spectacular. And this is, to
Yeah.
me, why AI is so fantastic. Not in every way, but in so many ways. And what you're doing kind of defines the greatest power of AI. I don't know if you want to comment on any of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on an excellent point about opening the rest of the world up to these communities. But I mean, a large part of that is also opening up, for that community to then receive the information, who wants to be able to get information on the weather so that they can make predictions about when to plant their crop because they'll know when the rain will come. Or a healthcare professional who speaks English working in a rural village, finally understanding a villager when they're describing where the pain is located in their body. It's just bridging this gap of communication that means information and knowledge can flow so that people can make better decisions for themselves, their lives, their communities, and how they are going to contribute back.
Yeah, it puts you on a very noble path, and it's really great. Let's jump over to the hackathon because you recently were involved in, or it was your hackathon, Vula Vula, is that right? API?
So yeah, the product that we've created is called Vula Vula, and we had a hackathon 2 weeks ago. Because I mean, we create the AI models. We're not the application builders who then turn it into a product that people use. And the hackathon was an opportunity for young people to come together to imagine what the future might look like if everyday applications were available to them in their local languages and the languages of their communities. It was a lot of fun. Yeah.
So they were building their own what in the AI world? They were, you said, not applications, so they're building their own agents, their own, certainly not LLMs, I would assume. Can you go a little deeper on that?
Yeah. So we provide the language technology, which means then they're able to build applications with that technology. So, for example, one of the teams created a sign language to speech app where people could sign in Southern African Sign Language, and that then converted to speech. So somebody could have a conversation with a deaf person, and it could be communicated in their local language. Another example was a really cool application. In Africa and many parts of the global south, there is a lot of informal trading, informal shops. But those types of shops are unable to get any kind of financial support because they just typically don't keep accounting records. So this application, you could just speak into it into your local language, and it would convert that speech, which would be descriptions of the sales of the day, into accounting records so that they then had a formal record that they could then, for example, go to apply for a bank or grant funding or something like that. So those were the kinds of things that they were building with our language technology.
And how do you feel it went? How impressed were you with the, I've been in those rooms in the hackathons, and it's, for me, the passion is what comes out, and I just think that's spectacular. And oftentimes it's very young people, and it's amazing to see their creation come to life. What did you witness through this hackathon?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, us at Lelapa, we're not just building technology, we're also having to socialize this idea of a tech-involved African future with the general public, with the world, really. So that event was super exciting because finally the work that we had put into developing this technology was having some screen time in terms of imagining what the future might look like when we can all interact with our devices in our local languages. And that was really, really exciting to see. yeah, it was a lot of fun. And like you say, with young people, there's just so much passion. They code through the night, they don't sleep. Um, and everybody was super excited about having this opportunity to develop an app so that their grandmother could navigate on on their phones. And it was a glimpse into the future that we're heading towards, and that was really nice.
Are you getting any attention or even support from any of the governments around the continent?
Not really, no.
I
I think,
want to know what's behind that laugh.
I mean, I think everybody's excited about the opportunity of AI. But I do also give our government a lot of slack because there is a lot that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, in South Africa, we've just had 100 days of no electricity cuts. And I mean, South Africa is one of the more advanced economies on the continent, and yet we still have these really pressing infrastructure challenges. There is inequality challenges. There are challenges as a result of our history that we're still trying to correct in the present day. So the government has a lot on their plate. So I don't blame them for not paying too much attention to this flashy new tech.
Well,
but they'll come on board soon enough.
yeah, so I was going to say, oftentimes they're not the first ones to jump on the train, but when they see the train enough and see what it's doing and where it's going, they do like to jump on. So we're gonna keep our fingers crossed for that day. But in the meantime, it gives you a sense of freedom too to do what it is your gut feeling says is the right thing to do. So it certainly benefits. Yeah. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your role as a mentor and a trustee of Ruth First Memorial Trust Scholarship Program, which is a mouthful, and how that experience relates to Lelapa AI.
Yeah. So Ruth First is a alumni of my old high school, which is JP High School for Girls, and she was a significant contributor to the fight against apartheid. So the school has commemorated her with this wonderful initiative, which is the Ruth First Memorial Trust. And this trust provides scholarships to promising young girls to attend the school, which is a pretty good government school, on scholarship so that they don't have to then pay fees. And for me, going to that school was quite formative in my education and in my development. I mean, it is quite a traditional school, but it's the type of environment that puts you in a little bit of a bubble that just because you're a young woman doesn't mean that achieving whatever it is you want to achieve is not possible. That bubble burst a little bit when I went to university and into the rest of the world, and they're like, "What do you mean you're a woman who's doing engineering?" So that school is quite a precious school, and the scholarship provides the opportunity for more people to go through that training and have that experience, and put them in a position that increases their chances of surviving and thriving in the world. Yeah.
Well, you've at Lelapa, you've put together a sizable team, right? And with a lot of expertise there. So what you just described about your school, I would say was a great launching pad to know how to put together teams and grow things where others might have thought it couldn't or wouldn't be done. So all that ties together for me, and it makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Vula Vula, talk to me about. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I was going to say, I mean, part of the work that we do at Lelapa, we have something called Grow and Give Fridays, and that is a Friday afternoon dedicated to contributing to community work in some kind of way. And through that Grow and Give Fridays, the team goes and teaches people how to code on Friday afternoons. The Jeppy school is one of those schools teaching young teenage girls to code. And so, yeah, we're really part of making sure that we're not just walking through the door and closing it behind us, but ensuring that it stays open for more people to come through.
Super great. Let's get back to the name, Vula Vula. Talk to me about that a little bit, the meaning, how it relates.
Yeah, Vula Vula, actually it's Vula Vula. It's a Tsonga word. Tsonga is one of the 12 official South African languages, and it's actually one of the smaller language groups. And the V is actually somewhere between a V and a B, Vula Vula. And it means speak. Quite simply, it was a name that was thought up by my co-founder, Jade Abbott. She's done incredible work around NLP in the African continent. But the premise of Vula Vula was just that people should be allowed to speak. And they should be able to speak, and nothing should stop them from speaking and being understood. I mean, in the apartheid years, and even for many years after South Africa, post 1994, local people have been prevented from speaking their languages, and it's been banned or discouraged to speak local languages. And really, Vula Vula is this API that has this language technology embedded in it, and it's really just to encourage people to speak and be heard, basically.
Great tagline. People should be able to speak.
Yeah.
It certainly makes a lot of sense. So it's the tying of this advanced technology with your experience and passion about socially grounded efforts that become really important to Africa as a whole. And I guess those people that speak those 2,000 languages, right? Can you just take a minute on this is more personal than just the business side, on your passion around that?
Yeah. I think it takes a particular kind of person to notice and see what is going on in the world and not want to be a part of making the world an easier place to live for more people. So honestly, I think this is the easier path of being a part of solving the world's challenges. And I think we at Lelapa are just extremely privileged with the opportunity to do so. Yeah, it's a very quick path to a fulfilling life, is working really hard and being really passionate about sharing the prosperity that you've experienced with a broader audience.
Yeah, you have the ability to make such a substantial impact on so many. It's not everybody ends up in a position to be able to do that. And I'm not saying it dropped in your lap as much as you had to do a lot of work to get it there, but it becomes very apparent, including the way you speak. Let's talk about the ungovernable NPC. Give us some background there.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yes, it is.
The Ungovernable NPC is an initiative that was formed within a neighborhood, a community neighborhood, driven by myself, my sister, and some other people who live in the building that we inhabit. And our neighborhood is quite an interesting neighborhood because it's an intersectional neighborhood. It's cross-culture, cross-religion, cross-class, which means that there's some really interesting opportunity for interaction and understanding what community means. And so that's what the Ungovernable does. It hosts experiments and practice experiments around what does it mean to be part of a community, and plays with those ideas and looks towards them. So, for example, part of that is a community garden that we have in the neighborhood, and it's actually on land that we don't own, so it's a guerrilla community garden. But the premise of the Ungovernable, in the 80s in South Africa, there's this famous speech that was aired on Radio Freedom, where there was a call for the country to be ungovernable, render this country ungovernable. And the premise around that was really that it should be ungovernable in order to collapse the apartheid government. But what came out of that call was an incredible response of communities to take ownership and to perform a civic duty of developing their own areas. So developing systems for transport, creating public parks for children to play in, really taking ownership of their communities, serving their communities, and making sure that they were nice places to exist in. And yeah, that's what the Ungovernable aims to do through things like the Guerrilla Gardening Project, through the Code Comoso Coding Academy, which we take part in, as well as other thought experiments that have been run from a more artistic sense. My sister is an inspiring artist. And that's what the ungovernable NPC is about and what it does.
So really, I mean, if I take what you're doing at Lelapa and include Vula Vula and now the ungovernable, they're not necessarily separate from each other. I mean, I assuming they're set up separate, but they're not really, right? They're all cross-pollinated with each other, it sounds like.
Yeah, absolutely. It's kind of like figuring out how can we distribute responsibility and power such that people can empower themselves to live better lives. I think in many ways, especially on the African continent at least, there's been this promise that a government will provide for us. But the government is only so small. Taxpayers' income to the government is only so small, and it really does take the majority of people to have agency around how we exist in our lives for the communities that we live in to be nice places that are functioning and providing the people within them the things that they need to succeed.
So we could have this conversation kind of in any genre or format, and it's super valuable to us anyway, learning from you and all that. But this is Edge of AI. So I want to focus on the AI portion and talk to me about a combination of those three entities and or individuals. Like, what is AI? We've certainly covered a lot of this answer, but I want to bring it into one. The advent of AI and the tool that is AI that you're able to do, what can you now do that you couldn't have done without it?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of, from computational linguistics, there has been computers for a while that have been grappling with language technology. But we haven't been able to get to the type of language understanding that we have now with the previous technologies, especially when it comes to voice type recognition or voice type synthesis. The models that we have at the moment just mean that there's an opportunity for that to be better. And in addition to that, I think what we find really exciting, especially at Lelapa AI, is this ability and the opportunity for that to be made smaller. So, I mean, the first IBM computers took up the size of the room. We now have computers that fit in our back pockets or onto tiny little chips. But from an AI sense, there is really this opportunity for us to be able to scale up capability at a lower cost, but also for it to be really, really small so that it can fit on a mobile device, so that it can fit in small community centers and provide that type of language capability to people who just ordinarily would not be able to afford it, would not be able to access it because it was just too expensive or too big or too much.
And the other takeaway on that is you described it from the user's point of view, which is entirely accurate. But there's the other thing. Previously, you had to be IBM to develop some of what you're developing. You had to have that team, that power, those funds, the resources of an IBM to be able to do this. With the large language models that are AI, what they have offered is they were put out to the world to offer someone like you the capabilities of what only Fortune 50 companies had in the past. So the masses can now develop these things, these plans, and implement them for massive impact. That wasn't possible. I would almost say, Chat GPT being the dividing line, which is about a year and a half ago, even though AI existed well before that, decades before that, but that was the moment that someone that had passion like you have and a plan like you have all of a sudden got the tools behind them to make them larger than life. And that is the biggest takeaway with AI. And it will do that with the language, which you just described perfectly, because it's not just word for word, it's meaning for meaning, right? It's they can get the incoming information from around the world and they can project out to the world in a way that has never been possible before. And that is the power of AI, and you are the result of that. And the result of you and your efforts I don't think it's a question, will affect millions and millions of people. This is the new dynamic we've gotten, and I think you're a perfect example of it. And I certainly applaud you for it. So really, really well done. If people want to follow Lelapa and what's going on, where's the best place for them to track your doings?
So we are present on most of the social media. I think if you're a techie, then you would probably want to follow us on a place like Twitter. If you're more of a business person, then LinkedIn would be the place. And if you're more of the creative type who's looking to understand what the imaginings of the future looks like for the Technology Africa, then Instagram would probably be the place. But otherwise, we're also accessible through our contact, through our email and our website. You can go play with our technology on the website. Yeah, those would be the best places. Oh, also, we have a Discord community. I know Edge of AI also has a Discord community, but we're there too.
Well, let's start with just a website so they can then go from there to all these other formats that platforms that people are familiar with. What is the website itself?
It is lelapa.ai. Nice and simple.
Lelapa.ai, and that is the name of the company, Lelapa AI. So that's really great. I'm going to give you a couple of quick fire questions, if I might, right? One piece of advice that you might give an aspiring AI entrepreneur.
Ooh, I know this is supposed to be quick fire, but now I'm trying to think really hard. Make sure you're solving a problem and not just developing AI for AI's sake.
Well, it was super short and super powerful, and you had no warning, so I kind of love it. Mentorship. You've done a lot of mentorship. You're very involved in it. What mentor piece of advice should you have gotten when you were young that you didn't?
Oh my goodness. I mean, I think I'm pretty satisfied with where I ended up without the mentorship and support and guidance. But
if you want to leave the answer right there, that was a strong one as well. We're good with that.
Yeah, let's go with that one.
All right. Well, that's what we're going to do. So talk to us about the what's on the horizon, projects that you know about and can speak of. Is there anything beyond what we've discussed that you got your sleeves rolled up on and that you're really excited about?
Yeah, so we're pretty excited. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be releasing an open source SLM, so a small language model that should be multi-purpose and can be fine-tuned for all sorts of tasks and functions. And that we think is going to be super fun. I mean, LLMs and their open sourcing has been really great because companies like us have had opportunities to play with them. But the SLM is where it's at because that just means so many more people can afford to utilize and play with them. So yeah, we're really looking forward to that. Yeah, that's the major thing for the next couple of weeks.
All right, that's fantastic. So we're going to head into AI Wants to Know. And if I'm right about you, this is where you get a little bit uncomfortable because guess what you've got to talk about? You. But it's 10 quick questions. We want to, uncover the sort of intriguing human mysteries of you for the sake of AI and our audience, of course. The questions are quick. The answers can be quick as well. Of course, you can stray about if you need to, but let's dive right into it. You ready for it?
Sure.
What is the first thing you ever remember being proud of?
Skip.
Okay, you have that right.
Right. My sister. I think that's the first thing I remember being proud of my sister.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, what do you need help with that you wish you didn't?
Ron, these questions are awful.
Yeah, I know. I knew you'd not like them, but it's part of the fun. By the way, we're just getting started.
Being more extroverted and enjoying public speaking.
Okay, that's good. And what do others often look to you for help with?
Broad spectrum type thinking and hope, I guess. I like to believe in the impossible.
Wow, really great. What do you treasure most about your human abilities?
I think being human is the ability to be enchanted by the world. I think the world is such a magical place. And I don't know that AI could ever understand how magical
Wow.
existence is.
Wow. Throughout your whole life, what is the most consistent thing about you?
Determination, and I'm going to say kind-heartedness. My name means kind-hearted, and I'm pretty sure it was a spell put on me by my uncle, who apparently had special powers.
Mm-hmm. In the same line, but opposite, throughout your whole life, what has changed the most?
I think I knew. I think I knew everything when I was younger. And the older I get, the more I know how much I don't know, which means I'm a lot more open to other people's opinions. I'm a lot more curious. Yeah.
Powerful. What do you find strangest about reality?
Time. I think time is a really weird thing, at least how we've been socialized to think about it. Every time I fly across time zones, I think about this. What is even time? Yeah, I think time is weird.
Well, one of your countrymen talks about that. I think you know who I'm talking about. He's got a few businesses here in the U.S. now, so you're in good company. So that feeling of being alive, we've all had it when it kind of happens in an instant. Sometimes you don't know exactly why it happens, but that real powerful feeling. What's the most recent experience of that you've had?
We had a meeting today that was super exciting. We were talking about a new research direction. I think having the opportunity to explore something new and knowing that on the other side of it is a solution to a difficult problem, those kinds of things really excite me. So it was a couple of hours ago.
Problem solving stuff. So yeah, it sounds like you may have those on a daily basis. That's we would all love to have that experience. So well done. What is your most unique trait?
Trying to give an answer that won't expose me too much. I think I have a. I don't know if it's fully unique because I think I learned it from my mother, but finding joy in very small things.
All right, I'm going to ask you one last one, and this one should make you equally as uncomfortable. If you weren't human, what would you be?
My inclination is to say a vegetable because this is a question that I often ask people what vegetable they would be. So in this moment, current Pelonomi would be a vegetable.
Fascinating. All right, I'm not going to torture you with more questions. I think we did pretty good. You got some great answers out there, by the way, so we appreciate it. Let's get back to AI directly. AI leaders and influences. Can you tell me about some of the leaders that you notice in the world of AI, and you know who's making an impact on you now?
I mean, my natural inclination again is, the current context that my brain is occupied with. I think the team that I work with, my co-founders, the leadership team at Lelapa AI, inspires me on a daily basis. I think they're really, really cool. Some of the people from the Masakane organization as well is David Adelani, who runs that thing almost single-handedly. He's a really successful AI researcher. Kathleen Simunyu, East African Kenyan, who also helps to keep that organization afloat of her free time. Yeah, I think those. There are so many, but those are the ones that are top of my mind at the moment.
Can you take a second and either spell out or give a Twitter handle so our listeners can track them down and watch what they're up to?
I don't
Possibly,
know what their Twitter handles are.
you know how to spell their
um,
name?
yes, David Adelani, so Davidadelani, and Kathleen Simuniu, which is KATHLEENSIMUNU. No, UNYU. I'm a terrible speller.
Oh, trust me, none of us would have
Apparently
got
also for names.
no, well done. So, resource lists, is there anything that you track or follow that would be advantageous for our listeners to also track and follow that you can think of with AI?
Not at this stage, no.
Okay. All right. And are there any tips for using AI for our listeners? Now, some of it you can speak to actually what's available through your website on how or what they can use through your own products. That's great. Or if there's any other product you think can help their AI adventure.
Of course, I'm going to use this opportunity for a shameless plug.
As you should.
We have a playground on our website. We have an API that has tools for you to play with. You can sign up, create an API token, plug it into a notebook or whatever else application that you like, and give it a go. And we would also love to hear everybody's feedback. We're still learning and growing, and knowing how best this thing can be consumed means that we're one step closer to achieving our mission. So we would appreciate it.
Fantastic. Well, I want to make sure before we get ready to close out here that everybody knows how to follow you and where to track you. We've already covered your website. I think that's probably the very first the hub of where to go, and they can track everything else you're doing. But is there anything we've left out for our listeners as to how to track your efforts and what you're up to?
I don't think so. No.
All right. It's fantastic. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you, taking your time here. And I found this absolutely fascinating, as I'm sure our listeners will as well.
Thank you so much, Ron. And yeah, hi to everybody.
Well, it's time for another safe landing at the outer edges of the AI universe for today. I am your captain, Ron. And on behalf of our guests and the entire crew, I'd like to thank you for choosing to voyage with us today. We wish you a safe and enjoyable continuation of your journey. When you come back aboard, make sure to bring a friend. Our starship is always ready for more adventurers. If you are listening, go to Spotify or iTunes right now, rate us and say something awesome. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and pass this episode on to a friend or two. Your support and feedback really mean the world to us. And don't forget to visit edgeofai.xyz. That's our website hub, edgeofai.xyz, and you can learn more about partnering and subscribe to the Outer Edge newsletter for the latest Edge of company news, events, and shows. In addition, connect with us on all the major platforms. Just search for edgeof_AI, and you'll see all about what's going on out there. And before we sign off, mark your calendars for our next voyage. We will continue unraveling AI's mysteries and advancements. And until then, bye-bye.
The views and opinions expressed on Edge of AI reflect solely those views and opinions of the show hosts and its guests. Please make sure to do your own research. While we make every effort to ensure that the information about AI technology is accurate and up to date, we cannot guarantee its accuracy, completeness, or timeliness. We make no representations or warranties of any kind with respect to the information, products, or services discussed. Please be aware AI may occasionally generate incorrect or misleading information and produce offensive or biased content. Under no circumstances shall we be liable for any loss or damage, including, without limitation, indirect or consequential loss or damage, or any loss or damage arising from loss of data or profits arising out of or in connection with the use of technology discussed on our podcast. Additionally, our show is not financial advice. You understand that you are using any and all information available on or through this podcast at your own risk. Whenever making financial decisions, we recommend doing your own research and talking to your accountant for financial advice. Lastly, time to time, we may feature sponsored content on the show for which we receive value, and we may share links for which we receive a commission if you make a purchase through one of these links. Refer to our website, edgeofai.xyz, for our full disclaimer, terms and conditions, privacy policy, and copyright notice.